The easy part is getting something airplane shaped. The hard part is getting an actual system of systems. I don't know if there's really much of an appetite anymore for cool aircraft. It's got to be able to do something.
What are you seeing out of the war in Ukraine?
You send a payload up, you realize there's interference, you turn it around in a week and you get it back up again. How can we leverage that into our existing ecosystem here, which is massive, to ensure that we're providing the best value for the warfighter?
Today's guest is a seasoned UAS engineering leader with deep expertise in aircraft development and systems engineering. She's worked for several defense companies, including Kratos and General Atomics, loves all things aviation, and is currently pursuing her private pilot's license. Not to mention, she's our very own Senior Vice President of Engineering here at Firestorm. Please welcome Joslyn Tarr.
I feel like such a jerk because I do like the Amazon Fresh delivery to my apartment of like 5 cases of LaCroix.
Yeah.
So I'm fancy as shit.
Yeah, you doing like a case a night now?
Yeah, that's my new habit. Yeah, I went from like 15 solo cups in college to now 15 LaCroix. It's bad.
No.
I've got a bad habit.
Just a lot of burping.
So it keeps me going the next day.
Yeah. Can I tell you a great story? Is I was at Thanksgiving one year, and this is like when LaCroix had just came out. And like, I think I probably had about 15 LaCroix at Thanksgiving. And my aunt, she's a nurse. She called my dad the next day and is like, I think Dan is pre-diabetic because he's drinking so much water. So I get a call from my dad, like very concerned. Like,
are your fingers tingling?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, are you going to have to go on like insulin? I'm like, Dad, I like LaCroix.
Yeah, I'm just like overhydrated.
Yeah, I'm just a bubble boy.
Yeah, totally. Like, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, just let me have my bubbles and leave me alone.
It's my little treat.
So, Joslyn, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Hello.
Hello. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about who you are and your background?
Sure. My name is Joslyn Tarr. I have spent nearly 20 years working on unmanned aircraft. Went to the University of Maryland, got my bachelor's in science and aerospace engineering, got connected to a UAV startup through one of my professors in school. So it was a startup. I think there were like 3 to 5 employees at any point in time. Going to age myself here, but I graduated in 2008, so not the best time to be working at a startup.
I remember that year too.
Yeah.
Wasn't great for the job market.
It was not great. But luckily I graduated spring of 2008, so jobs were still available. But worked for a startup called American Dynamics Flight Systems, and we were working on a wingtip ducted fan UAV. That was doing some wind tunnel testing with the University of Maryland. So that's, I think, kind of what got me started there. They closed, I think, sometime in 2009 or 2010. But I left after about 13 months and went complete opposite end of the spectrum and ended up working for a contractor for the FAA in DC. So got completely exposed to how the FAA approaches new things and new technologies. The things that they will consider that can fly and cannot fly, both literally and figuratively. Was there for about, I think, 3 years. Really missed working on hardware and aircraft development. Not the best place to be a young engineer at the FAA. Just
shocking.
I know, right? I was the lowest rung on the totem pole. So most of what I was doing was comment and feedback.
Nice.
Answering, I guess. I don't even know what you would call it, but taking notes. So I like to think of it as a glorified technical secretary. But
that's why you're so good taking notes now.
Thank you. It is a next level skill. I also like keeping a neutral face during meetings that are endless. That's also a great skill I learned. But in all honesty, it was really interesting seeing how the FAA operates, how they consider everything that's moving at kind of a blazing pace for technology. So that's then became really beneficial later on in my career. From there, I went to General Atomics, straight to their high desert facility in Adelanto, California.
Lovely this time of year.
Yeah, lovely this time of year.
And all other times of year.
Yep. Went straight from DC to Adelanto, California, which was a change. It was real interesting.
Yeah.
Did not know that when you do a ton of meth, you lose your teeth. And for like the first year I was in that area, people kept asking to see my teeth, and then their response would be, "Oh, you're not from around here." Just very odd. Never knew that. Lived such a sheltered life.
Yeah.
So it was lovely. But
what was like the percentage of people in Adelanto, California that had teeth versus didn't have teeth?
I think it's getting better because General Atomics is growing.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. How many people at General Atomics had no teeth? That's, I guess, the real question.
Everyone at GA has teeth. Great dental benefits at GA.
Okay.
So
it's not that they don't do meth. It's that they have good dental benefits. Let's just get that clear.
You know what? Not going to comment on that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Blue.
No, it was fantastic though. That facility was one of the ones that Abe Karam was using early on before Leading Systems was bought out by GA. So there are folks at that team that have been with General Atomics before the Aeronautical Systems division existed. Started working there in my mid-20s, and I was so dumb. I'm still so dumb compared to some of the people I've had the luck to work with, but I just learned so much from them. Super cool place to develop aircraft too, in terms of there's a lot of space. Things move at a pretty rapid pace, and it's just an interesting culture for aircraft development.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Yeah. So General Atomics, when I joined in 2012, I think was about 4,000 people. Even back then, we went from concept to first flight on an aircraft in 2, maybe 3 years. And granted, there's varying stages of what TRL you release at first flight, but for a company that size, that's still pretty impressive. And I think that speaks to a lot to the team and the culture's approach to aircraft development. So you've got a lot of folks up there that just live, breathe, and die airplanes, and that's driven down through kind of the entire culture of development.
Do you think that's why Anduril went to GA and just gobbled up hundreds, if not thousands, of their employees? Yeah,
I would. When I do outreach now for college students, either aerospace and mechanical, and they say they want to go into defense or aerospace, GA is a fantastic place for an engineer to go and just learn as much as they can. Mm-hmm. Just the reps that you run for large vehicles in terms of the development timeline, I really think is unprecedented. But it's pretty cool too. I was there in my mid-20s. I knew nothing. I got to work on a pretty significant portion of an aircraft development project versus if I went to a bigger prime, I probably would have been siloed.
Yeah. We got to see that airplane too at AUSA, didn't we?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The first aircraft I worked on was what's now called MQ-20 Avenger. Learned a ton about aircraft development, composite development. And then that aircraft at AUSA is the beloved green Mojave aircraft. Short takeoff and landing, perfect for backcountry flying and all of your other austere warfare needs.
Yeah, trademark.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and then you went from GA to Kratos.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I, after 10 years at GA, I got a little bit of an itch to learn a new approach to aircraft development. Joined Kratos, I think in 2022. I came on as an individual contributor and was helping them coordinate their IRAD portfolio. I also kind of moonlighted as a PM. I was always reticent to take on that official title because there's a lot of work that PMs do.
Yeah.
So they jokingly, I think I refer to myself as a PM asterisk, but ran the development for the Kratos trolley launch system. So that's where Valkyrie took off from a ground launch cart essentially and went into its normal flight mode and its parachute recovery. But really cannot say enough good things about the Kratos team too. Really, really cool company, different way of developing aircraft, but they've got a really talented team over there.
Okay, so you've been at a very small company,
yep,
the FAA, and then 2 massive defense contractors. Now you're working at a very small company.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about those differences you see between working at big companies and small companies.
Yeah, absolutely. Aside from the sparkling water benefit, which you definitely can't scale for a company of 10,000 people, pace is the one that everyone always talks about. But I also think it's a little bit too in terms of how you collaborate as a team. So when you're at a large company, there's a lot of process and structure that's there to ensure that you're working together as a team. And one of the things I love about Firestorm is it started, 3 years ago?
Yep.
The team has been really central to the development. And now the question and challenge becomes, how do we scale that? So when it's not just relationship based and everybody's been in the trenches together for 3 years, if we're going to grow and expand it at a rapid pace, how do we ensure that new people that are coming on board are still part of that team and we're still working well as a team?
Okay, so what would you recommend to other startups?
Yeah.
And then my question is, why is the startup approach important to explain to the government
Yeah.
for how we build products.
Yeah, I love that. So I think my advice for building engineering teams with startups is you do have to be pretty brutal about how you bring into the fold. I think the folks that will get you to the place that you can hire 10 engineers are not going to be the same that get you to 50, that get you to 100. At some point in time, you need to start balancing the soft skills like leadership, ability to work in a team, have those hard discussions. You have to start weighing those differently than just technical competence. That is not to oversell those skills above technical competence. Definitely not recommending that at all. But if you can find folks that are excellent at engineering and hands-on development and building and flying and understand kind of, when it's out of their portion of work, it's still their responsibility to see the product be successful. I think that's how you grow a startup.
And so a lot of companies are really good at the 0 to 1 engineering, right?
Yep.
But then, and maybe that's 20, 30 people. When you go from 30 to 200, right? What do you think when you grow a team kills teams?
I think swinging the pendulum too far in the process direction, because you are going through growing pains where you can't just rely on ad hoc communication. So I think at some point in time, you realize you can't just rely on hallway conversations to get things done and track configuration. But then I think you need to be really cautious about going in the complete opposite direction and bringing in big company processes. So obviously there's certain things that we're going to have to do. We want to work for the government. We want to be a Department of Defense vendor. We want them to think of us, at the top of their head when they're thinking group 1, group 2, at the edge manufacturing. So certain things like time cards, we're going to have to do that. But other things, we have to be really diligent about figuring out if it works for us. So I think one of the things I want to bring to this team is the willingness to course correct and change. So we try something out, it doesn't work, we've got to adapt and evolve.
Yeah. And what was that like at a big company? Was it easy to course correct, hard to course correct?
The larger you become, the harder it is. And I think it's one of those things that sometimes you need to kind of think of it like a hangnail. Are you going to rip it off and have that bleed a little bit and it's a bit painful right there, but then you can course correct immediately? Or do you accept that slow burn? And I think that's going to be the decision that we're going to have to consistently revisit here at Firestorm.
Yeah. I think anyone kind of building hardware is going to have that type of painful discussion on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And I think too, it's, none of this is new. I know that this is what everyone thinks about in leadership, regardless if they're at a startup or a big company. It's figuring out what works well for the company.
Yeah. Because a lot of these companies are kind of like high pressure situations, right?
Yeah.
How have you learned to lead? And if you guys have ever built hardware or anything in the, let's say, physical space, there's a lot of characters that you tend to get on hardware teams, a lot of personalities.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about what are kind of some of the key things for these high pressure environments you need to do from a leadership position?
Yeah, I think from a leadership position, it's figuring out what things people can do and what they can't do. And if you have must-haves on the team and those are things that people can't do, they're honestly probably not a good fit for the team. Engineers are quirky. We're all a little weird. But I think the big thing you have to stress across the team is you want that diversity within a team of skills. So if I've got engineers that can go heads down on deep work and they're excellent in a single discipline, that's really valuable. I don't want a team of just type A, go-getters generalists, because we're not going to be solving those hard problems. But you got to figure out, those are the type of people that you're probably not going to pull for a Tiger team because you've suddenly had an aircraft that's glitching, right? Kind of same thing on the opposite end.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's bring it in, that was our theoretical, how you would do this, right?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the drone development cycle, right? Yeah. What's easy about it? What's hard about it? Give us your thoughts.
Yeah. The easy part is getting something airplane shaped. The hard part is getting an actual system of systems. So this maybe is going to cause a little bit of chagrin, but I don't know if there's really much of an appetite anymore for cool aircraft. It's got to be able to do something. So whether it's a launched effect, EW, payload, it's really more about that system of system and what mission it can complete. So just getting to that point for the base platform, the truck, if you will, that can perform that mission, that's still hard. But that I think is the easy part. That full system of system integration is where the challenge and the pain really lies. One thing that I think is outside of our control that continues to be a challenge is the approvals and the hoops you have to jump through to actually get something up into the air. So there's Part 107 that you can, there's pretty decent allowances for testing up to 55 pounds. But then from 55 pounds, there's this massive gap. Why is it that we need to go through the same airworthiness process for something that is 65 pounds as something that's 20,000 pounds?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a massive split there. Where do you think the answer should be? How'd you cut it up?
Yeah, so I think the forthcoming Part 108 will help. I do think we are going to have to start looking at how we as an industry and regulation and compliance deals with things at the pace that technology moves. So we'll see things both on the autonomous side and on the hardware side that are going to outpace regulations. It's always happened. But how can we ensure that we still have a way to consistently and quickly develop?
Right. So you're basically saying technology is moving so fast, we have to have engineering rigor to what we build for safety reasons. And then you have this regulatory piece. I mean, these are a lot of different balls to juggle. Do you think that the FAA is like really thinking that far down the road, or are they kind of like, we're going to solve Part 108 first, and then I guess we'll go back to the drawing board for 10 years?
That's a great question. It is hard to tell whatever the FAA is thinking. I think in the FAA's defense, safety is their number one priority.
Sure.
I feel that as a person, right? I don't want to have to be flying, taking a nap on a plane and have to worry about something coming out of left field. I don't know if they are set up well, though, to regulate quickly. And I think in the FAA's defense again, too, I don't know if they would say that that's part of their vision, if you will.
Sure. Okay, so let's play the magic wand game.
Yeah, I love that game.
Right? You have a magic wand. You're in charge of the FAA. What do you do, like tangibly, like, 2 or 3 things that you think will help the industry be able to, or let's say the regulatory part, to keep up with the industry speed?
Yeah, so the existing UAS test sites, I think, are a great first step. Expanding those areas and expanding the ease of access. So one of the things I've seen from my previous work with Kratos is those test sites are really beneficial. It does still take a pretty large company to get everything in place to, number one, say your aircraft's airworthy, and then go through the actual airspace approval portion. It would be excellent if there was something akin to military ranges, but on the civil side. So just like those UAS test sites, but it was an easier hurdle to go through for small UAVs. So something, maybe we look at something like 55 pounds up to 200 pounds. So what you would see for more like that low end of the group 3, if we're not carrying any sort of effects and we're just flying a 200-pound UAV, what is the danger of flying that out in the desert if we lose link and we can immediately ground it? That's something that I would love to see in terms of opening up that access for startups that don't have folks on their team that have done airworthiness, that don't know how to file for a COA. There's a whole ecosystem there of companies that can help with that. But for a startup, is it really worth the cost to do so?
Yeah. And why is it important to have a lot more startups in this space?
Oh, I mean, we've got to challenge the way we're doing things, right? So that's something I have to constantly question my assumptions here at Firestorm of, I come in with years of experience of how aircraft development should go, but how can I adjust my thinking for what's appropriate when we're smaller? So with additive manufacturing, one of the coolest things is we can design, build, and fly significantly more quickly than you would need to if you were doing, that whole composite development where you go through, you cat up a part, you have to make the master mold, the lamination mold, you lay it up. It's like, if we put this on a flow chart, it would bore everyone to death, right? But 3D printing, it's you cat up the part, you send it to the printer, you print, and you're ready to go. So what I think we need to slightly adjust our thinking on is we can fly at a lower TRL. Flight is not something that's achieved at like TRL 6. We are essentially unlocking access to flight with additive manufacturing. Interesting.
And so then that should definitely speed up the development speed, in your opinion, right?
Yeah.
And from a cost standpoint, I guess, and like what you invest as a small company to get something that can fly, if you can 3D print it, you'll get there a lot faster.
Yeah.
So let's kind of change gears here for a second, right? What do you see in the industry today that's really interesting to you, just across everything?
Ooh, I mean, I'm probably going to be biased because I'm employed here now, but additive manufacturing, I think the speed at development. So one of the things that we're looking at is taking our existing tool sets, improving simulations, and doing a lot more of that initial design and analysis in parallel. So that's one of the things that we talk about with our multidisciplinary design and analysis optimization tools. How can you feed that input in? So instead of it kind of going each discipline in series, you can now start running some of those things concurrently. And that's where I think we start looking at how do we bring in the best practices from big companies in terms of engineering rigor and fundamentals into a startup environment.
Okay. And so now let's talk about like future trends, right? Like what are you seeing out of the war in Ukraine? Where do you think some of these things are going to go over the next, 24 months, 5 years?
Yeah, I think in terms of trends in the industry, we have got to figure out a better way to be modular. So not just in terms of a 3D printed aircraft, but why does it take, the whole industry weeks, months to work partnerships between companies? There's kind of that awkward moment where you're each circling each other before you figure out if a payload can actually go on your platform. That's something that I think coming out of Ukraine, you send a payload up, you realize there's interference, you turn it around in a week and you get it back up again. How can we leverage that into our existing ecosystem here, which is massive, to ensure that we're providing the best value for the warfighter?
Do you think the DOD understands that, or do you think they're still learning?
I think industry is still learning too.
Okay. So it's everybody's still learning.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's just because we're not like in a scenario where we have to have that quick a turns. Is that your thought? Is that why?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is one of the things that I've seen here at startup. We consider it to be a long lead time for something that seems administrative. Take that to a big company and they consider that to be an expedited order, right? So it is relative.
Yeah, everything is relative. What do you think's going to happen just to like a bunch of these big primes? I mean, you've worked at a lot of them. Or businesses grow. They die. Like, do you think we're at a different stage now in the defense industry where some of these big guys are going to die, or are they going to stay and fight? They have a different form? Do they go buy a bunch of small companies? Like, what do you think is going to happen here?
I don't think the big companies are going to die. Just looking in terms of how far spread they are throughout everything that it takes to get, let's just pick on an aircraft, for example. In terms of everything it takes to get an aircraft up and running, in terms of the logistics and supply chain, those are things that the big companies are excellent at that because they've been doing it for decades. I think they are going to have to figure out a way to evolve and adapt. So to your point, do they buy smaller companies? That's maybe a quick way to do it. I think we've seen recent companies do that where they acquire existing technologies and teams and they bring that into their fold and they see how it performs.
Okay, so manufacturing hard, logistics hard, supply chain hard, right? How do we make them go faster?
That's a great question. I think it's working with the companies that have done that already. So you look at the depth of expertise at like Palantir. How can we as a startup partner with those type of capabilities so we can bring our rapid development for product into an existing system that can get us, out expanded as quickly as possible, can help us with those logistics and supply chain questions.
So let's change gears again for a second here, right? All right. You're not building airplanes for us or running our engineering team. What do you do with your free time?
Oh man. So when I'm not working, so I guess magic wand question, love this. Aside from bringing in my own bevy machine at home so I could have sparkling water on tap. I love the outdoors. It's kind of where I go to clear my head. I think you've been the unfortunate recipient of probably half-baked ideas after I've come in
We love half-baked ideas. Come on.
After I've come in from like a hike or a run. But I love mountain biking and rock climbing. Got into skydiving a few years ago, and I'm nearly complete with my private pilot's license.
All right. Where's the first place you're going to fly when you get that license?
First place I'm going to fly is probably going to be Apple Valley Airport.
Okay.
So I switched down to San Diego when I moved to join Firestorm, but Apple Valley is where I learned how to fly. All
right. So you'll take off there, but I mean, where are you going to go land? Where's your first trip?
Oh, no, I'm taking off from San Diego and landing in Apple Valley. Like super boring.
Got it. I was hoping for something really exciting. Like, I don't know. Las Vegas?
I'm gonna take off from San Diego and I'm gonna skydive into Burning Man and then I'm gonna jump back into the plane and land it. Yeah. We're gonna do plane swap. No.
Yeah, let's do it. I think they got to do that one time, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, we saw that
FAA
one.
killed everybody, basically.
Yeah.
Never allowed to skydive or fly a plane again.
Yep.
It is one of the coolest videos, if you have not seen it, of the plane swap.
Yeah.
All right, Joslyn, thanks for joining us today. I'm really glad you're on our team. It's really awesome that you've bringing all this experience, and thanks for, helping us be a better company.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Tim.
Thanks for listening to the Drone Wars podcast. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe to catch all the latest insights for all things defense and geopolitics.